Well, hey everybody, it's Romania Black, and we are on episode 12 of Chihayafuru. And last week was really great because we managed to make it through the finals. We're going to nationals. Do I think we're going to get very far at nationals? No. But I am looking forward to seeing how far we do go. So that's gonna be fun. I don't think that they're gonna make it to winning nationals. I don't think they're gonna make it that far because it's only season one. But it's gonna be a learning experience, and that's gonna be really fun along the way. So I am excited to see where that goes. So I just got back from my vacation. I'm excited, and I want to talk about some of these comments before we start. I do want to talk about one from Fornoda. Fornoda has been really good on YouTube about talking about each of the cards. I'm up to episode 9 where they're talking about it. I really liked H Banana's comment over on Patreon for episode 10, saying, I love the growth of Tsutomu and Taichi throughout episode 10. It's just a wee sprout, but hey, we got plenty of sunshine from Chihaya. Yeah, I love that metaphor of Chihaya being the sunshine that helps grow their sprouts and their character development. I love that. That's awesome. And then William Pina said the other team in episode 10 that won one of the games was by default because Kamino didn't show. So that makes sense. Before I get to Fornoda's comment, I do want to say, unfortunately, and this happens, my moderators are human. I have one moderator checking all of the comments for Chihayafuru, which is great. I love reading comments. But I've pretty much explicitly said since episode 1, I don't want spoilers about relationships. I don't want stuff that's not explicitly said in the show. And if I miss it in the discussion, I don't want you in the comments correcting me. I want to find out with the show. And I feel like I get a teacher moment because I'm like, it's in the syllabus. And I feel like a lot of commenters just don't care. They're just like, they show up and they correct me and move on with their lives, which is fine. But then it can ruin the show experience for me. So, with episode 9, there was some commenter that was like, Arata thinks that Chihaya and Taichi are dating. And I'm like, why would you tell me that? That's clearly a spoiler. It wasn't mentioned at all in the episode. It's probably something that's going to come up later. And my moderator they're human. They happened to miss it and cleared it. And then they were like, yeah, it's going to be talked about later. And I'm like, and so I'm just like, I'm like, honestly, I'm going to be talking about it in the July update video, but I'm getting to a point with the comments where I'm going to have to stop reading them because people just cannot listen. And it's very disrespectful. And and my moderators are human. They're going to miss things. It just happens. But I'm definitely going to be checking Patreon comments because y'all are paying me. You're giving your money and your support. So I'm going to be for sure having the mods check Patreon because there's not as many comments over there. And for sure reading those and responding to you. I'll probably respond to Fornada because they've not been spoilery and been super helpful with their comments. But everybody else, maybe I'll read your comment if it's not spoilery, but everybody else, I don't know. Fornada, I'm probably going to check all their comments. And there's some people that are OG commenters that have been here from the beginning, and I'll probably check yours on YouTube. But otherwise, if you're not supporting me on Patreon or being respectful, then bye. I'm just going to ignore your comment, heart it, say thanks, and move on. Because I'm tired of being so emotionally invested about that. But yeah, sorry I went off on a tangent, but God, that just emotionally gets me. Anyway, so for Anoda, for episode 9, they said, fun fact, when the Reddit did the rewatch, which I don't know what that means. I guess Reddit rewatches shows. Reddit's so huge. I'm sure there's a sub-channel or something. This episode fell on Valentine's Day, of all days, considering the poem of the day is Being in Love. Poem 40 was written by Taira no Kanamori, one of the 36 Immortals. According to Mostow, it was included in a poetry contest in 960, and in the finals faced off against Poem 41. The judges were not able to pick a winner, so deferred to the Emperor Murakami. After deliberation, the emperor hummed the verses from Taira's poem, making it the winner. It should be noted that the Taira were a samurai clan that dominated Japanese politics during the Heian period, alongside the Fujiwara, Tachibana, and Minamoto. Their dominance was brought to an end by the Genpei War, the Taira-Minamoto War, which led to the establishment of the Kamakura shogunate under Minamoto no Yoritomo in 1192. This marked the rise to power of samurai and the gradual suppression of the power of the emperor, who was compelled to govern without effective political or military power, being effectively reduced to a purely symbolic and ceremonial head of state until the Meiji Restoration over 650 years later. Moreover, the red and white of the Taira and Minamoto respectively became what is now the national colors of Japan. Fun times! Mostow translates it as, even though I hide it, it shows all over my face. Such is my longing, so that people ask me, what are you thinking about? A rather self-explanatory in nature, this poem is about love. I find it a beautiful, bittersweet, and I'm sure Taichi does too, because this one is clearly about him. Yeah, and in episode 11, whenever Arata gets the picture of all of them at the end winning the trophy, you could argue that Arata maybe thinks that they're together, but I don't fucking want confirmation of that until we get to it in the show. So, damn. Anyway, there's one other series that gave me a lot of grief this week while I was gone, and I'll hopefully not tear up during that. But anyway, sorry for all the emotions that Chihayafuru is bringing me. I'm hoping that this episode is much more joyful so I can enjoy it and have a good time, because I love Chihayafuru and it gives me a lot of joy. So let's hope that that's the case. But sorry for making you all wait and being such a blubbering mess. I'm like, do I need to get therapy because of my channel? I'm very tempted sometimes. But anyway, I hope you all enjoy this reaction and discussion. I'm excited, but we're going to start episode 12 of Chihayafuru, and we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. This was such a great episode. This was a good episode to transition us from winning the actual qualifier to getting ready for nationals. And it had a lot of things happen within it that definitely needed to before we moved forward, which was great. I do definitely think that our crew, now granted, Chihaya has been practicing for a long time, as has been Nishida, as has been Taichi, even though Taichi's kind of like had some time in between because they were playing soccer. And then of course Kana and Tsutomu are newbies. But I do think that definitely our top 3 of the 5 pulled their weight in the tournament. And the only reason why they hadn't been like more prominent because they didn't have a club until this year. Had they had clubs in the past, I think it would. And also, this is their freshman year in high school. So I think they definitely got super lucky. It was giving me the sports anime vibes of like in Haikyuu and in some other series where, you know, they do really well and kind of are the underdogs that succeed and like, you know, the other opponents underestimate them and that's their downfall. They definitely did that sports anime trope, but it was done really well last week. I'm cracking up by looking at the people in the background with their cameras recording. Some of the animation on them is really funny, like unintentionally funny, but really good. But yeah, I could definitely understand why Retro-kun and his team especially feel bad because they've been winning like the last 2-3 years. And this is the first year they haven't won. And it was the year that it was Pseudo's last year as a 3rd year. So they can't go to nationals now, which sucks. Although hearing that Hiyori or Horiyoshi or whatever will get the hot college one that is of age. And I feel better knowing that. Because I was like, he's hot. But I was like, oh yeah, good. He's college age. Great. I can say that. That's great. But yeah, the fact that you can compete as an adult, I think that gives me hope because I'm sure Pseudo will keep playing. I think Pseudo of all of them, Pseudo and Retro-kun seem like the 2 that would keep playing. Retro-kun reminded me a lot of a character from Ping Pong, who you need to go watch Ping Pong. It's only 11 episodes. Get on it. But he reminds me of a character that's pretty centralized in that series that's more of a support character, but really is a support character. And Retro-kun in this episode was a great support character. But yeah, so, you know, I do think them saying, I felt Chihaya's pride in that moment where she's like, we earned this trophy together. It's the first trophy we won. She's like, I feel so glad that we did it. Like, she's elated. She's ready to go to nationals. This has been her dream. And she's finally getting the chance to live through it. So I get that for her. I do feel like Pseudo's words are important, being like, hey, don't make this a fluke. Don't just say you won on a whim. You need to go and represent Tokyo well. And, you know, because we would be doing that. you all need to do that too. And I think that they know that Chihaya's team is serious, but I do think it was a great idea that Retro-kun gave them the playbook of all their secrets and research, because that was super helpful, because I think Retro-kun knows they have the talent, but there's so much that's going to happen at nationals that you can't normally prep for. So do I anticipate something happening to that guide? Yeah, I do. It seems like, it seems like a guide that something bad would happen to it. So hopefully that's not the case, but if it does, I won't be surprised. But or there's gonna be something that's not in the manual and everybody's gonna be like, the guide doesn't talk about this. Like, I'm ready for that to happen, but we'll see as we go what ends up happening there. But yeah, she's like, we won. And here I was wanting to know like how her family would react to it. And we're gonna get to that point here in a second. But yeah, when Tsutomu said we took first in our first tournament, I was like, you don't really want to say that out loud. You don't want to say that out loud too much. There's just some things that socially you don't want to acknowledge to people because it will make you look a certain way. And telling people like, this is our first tournament ever and we beat you all. Like, I know Tsutomu didn't mean for it to have that precedence, but it does carry that like undertone to it. It's like when there was a judge that came to a livestock show and the very first thing out of their mouths was, this is my first time judging goats. You don't want to say that, even if it's true, because there are people there who have spent so much time and energy getting things prepared that when you acknowledge how much of a novice you are, it really sets a tone, and you don't necessarily want to do that. So, but there's a lot of lessons learned in this show that are, when Kana says, is it really okay for us to win? Well, yes. Nishida is right. They earned the right to represent Tokyo. That part is very true. It's like you don't want to tell people this was your first tournament. You don't want them to know that. It's kind of like when people say, what place did you get? And you're like, 4th place. You don't have to tell them there was only 4 there. you can be. And I think it was funny when the Empress was like, what was there, 4 teams there? And Chihaya was like, no, there was 12. So, it's just, the show does a fun job of exploring like the tones and themes and things like that. I really like Retro-kun's character a lot. And when he said this has been in our club room for the last 2 years, it's like, yeah, he's like, I've looked at it every day. I'm glad this show goes through the motions of showing us what it feels like to lose and how they have that reaction, because yeah, this was a big deal for them. Like, they were ready to go. I know that I joked last episode when they told the one sponsor, like, we've got this. And I'm like, famous last words. But they really were confident that they were going to win, and they were excited. They weren't treating it like it was nothing. Because, there are some teams in sports anime that they show up and they're like, oh, we've got this in the bag. We don't even care if we win, but it's going to be so easy. Like, there's teams like that, and those are the teams that you really don't like. But with Retro-kun's team, they were really enthusiastic, and they were ready to go to nationals to perform for Mochida-kun, but then it didn't happen. And so you could tell that, like, I like that Retro-kun kind of represents all of their disdain and like regret. He's such an emotional character that Pseudo's kind of like, nah, we get it. Let's go, man. It's fine. We're good. That was a really sweet moment. And that's when Pseudo's like, don't disgrace Tokyo with your playing. And again, I relate so hard to Chihaya because her and we are both like emotional soul sisters. Like, we take everything to heart. And that's, as you've seen from earlier on in this video, is something that, both of us are going to need to grow and adapt with, right? Most definitely. But yeah, then you see like the ribbons that are hanging off the trophy. Some of them say Hokyo, which is their school. And then they've added then their name onto the tournament. So, because they've had it for so many different years and now it's theirs. Let's talk about the family. So I am glad that Chihaya was recognized by her parents by the end of this. I'm very, very glad that they took the clipping out of the paper and they had her brochure. Because I was thinking about her brochure. I'm like, girl, show them your brochure that you have with you in the kimonos. Like, you look beautiful. Like, I'm glad that Chihaya, what I love about her character is she's so humble. She's so humble. And she's so selfless. She's inspiring with how selfless she is. Like, I would be personally, I would be very heartbroken if my parents were only devoting themselves to one sibling, to my sister, and weren't paying attention to me at all. I would be mad. And I would be like, hey, we won the Kuruda tournament. I just want to tell you that. But so I'm glad that by the end that was resolved and we got to see that they had started a book on Chihaya. The part that's frustrating is they just started the book on Chihaya, like this year. Like, girl's been practicing, she's been practicing Kuruda. She's been going to tournaments where she won with Taichi and Arata back in grade school. Y'all didn't cut that out or take any notes on that. You just now started it. Like, I feel for Chihaya because her sister overshadows her, and she's a damn patron saint. Because rather than being jealous of her sister, rather than being kind of like envious that her sister is seemingly noticed more than by her parents than Chihaya, which I'll talk about that in a second, she accepts it, and not only accepts it, she supports her sister. She's her sister's biggest cheerleader, and that takes a lot of personality to do. Because do I think her sister would do that for her? No, I don't think so. And I wanted to get to that point. I think her parents I'm kind of torn between, is Chitose a monster created by her parents? Not literally, because she biologically is, but like her parents coddling her and spoiling her and praising her so much. Like, is that something they've created and it's led her to have this personality where she seems polar opposite of Chihaya, where she's kind of like spoiled and stuck up and kind of bratty and really narcissistic, and Chihaya is like an angel. So is it because of her parents nurturing her the way that they have, or is that just her personality? Or opposite of that, is her personality just like that, and her parents know that she can't handle rejection and things like that, so they try to pacify her and coddle her and give her kid gloves because they know that's just how she is. You know, it's one of those which came first, the chicken or the egg thing. We've only had a few scenes with her sister, so we're going to find out as the show goes. I think her sister is going to be like that trope of, I was always envious of you, Chihaya, because you're the prettier sister and you've got all this talent. Her one sister, Chitose, just seems like she's pretty. Which, I'm not saying Chihaya is smart. She's the fifth bottom of the class. But Chihaya has such a bright personality. Her personality can take her a long way. Chitose's personality is kind of like, I don't know, an influencer. She makes me think of an influencer where I'm like, well, you're really pretty, but are we going to be having lively conversations with you? I don't know that. So I feel like she's really relying upon her looks, which, here's the thing, your looks only last so long. And I hate to tell people this, but I'm like, your looks only last you your youth. And then once you get older, it's not going to maintain. I get really frustrated because like girls that get like lip fillers and stuff in their 20s, I'm like, why are you doing that? Do you know what happens to filler? Like, it's going to jumble around. You're going to look like a hot mess by the time you're 40, but that's not my business. But I feel like I was feeling really bad for Chihaya in this opening scene because, you know, her parents seem pretty average. And then they're all like, you know, and of course Chihaya's sister looks gorgeous. She's a model on the game show. She's also dumb as a box of rocks. And she doesn't realize what to do in the game show. So it's really, you know, it's kind of sad. What do you do, right? But the only other thing I would add about the parents is I don't like the fact that they push off the fact that she's using her modeling, like, because it made me feel a little bit better about Chitose that she was using her modeling career to help them pay off their mortgage, which that's real noble and all, but I don't like the fact that her parents are like, we need you to be successful so that you can help us pay off our mortgage. Like, at no point in this episode did they say, oh girl, we don't need your modeling career for that. They're almost kind of banking on it. And I'm like, that's putting a lot of added stress when the parents don't even realize that they're putting that added stress on, because then later Chihaya is like, oh, I shouldn't ask my parents for money because they have this mortgage to pay off. I'm like, what do they do for a living? Don't they have jobs? Shouldn't they be using, you know, their jobs to fund that? Like, I don't know. I kind of felt like Chitose, her modeling career should be her stepping stone to being independent of her parents and having her own life, which the modeling industry is really difficult in short term because, again, you will age out of that industry a lot quicker than you will a normal job. So I don't know. It was very striking to me that they were like, we're depending upon you to help us pay off our mortgage. And I'm like, what's your jobs? And shouldn't you be letting your kids be, you know, making money to help them get a job, get like a house and a place to live, rather than, it was just, you know, I don't know. And it might be a totally different culture because I'm American. And so my perspective about parents, as a teacher, I see a lot, and I'm not saying this is the case with Chihaya, Chitose, and her parents, but I do see a lot of parents in the culture that I live in that are relying upon, it's a two-way street. I see some families who their children are relying upon the parents for everything, even as adults, and that's a problem because your parents have, given you so much up until this point. Why are you still relying upon them? You need to go off and do your own thing. But then I'm also seeing parents making bad decisions and their kids having to pick up the slack when their kids, it's not their fault their parents are in that position. Why should it be their responsibility? I'm not saying that Chiaya's folks are either way. It was just a throwaway line that I was like, why is her modeling career needed? Meanwhile, you have Taichi, whose house is like loaded, who does not have that problem, and Retro-kun shows up to give him the booklet. Oh, Taichi's over here, our bisexual king, getting to practice with Hiroshi and also getting like some time alone with Retro-kun. The team that answers the next correction. Yeah. So she's not even shown there that you have to buzz in to a quiz show if you want the camera to move on you. And she's like, I'm not cut out to be an entertainer. I'm like, well, girl, here's the thing. Yeah, you may be the prettiest person on stage, but you gotta be able to play the game, girl. Being a model and being an entertainer are not the same thing at all, right? And she's like, I'm going to keep on trying until I can make a taiga drama. What is a taiga drama? I want to look this up to know for sure. Oh, okay. So is it like a historical fiction series? Okay. All right. It's very romantic. Then I can pay the mortgage off this house. I mean, maybe that's her, it makes her seem like she's doing it for noble reasons. So I'm going to take it back. I don't think her parents are pushing them to become famous and be successful to help them pay off the mortgage. I don't think that's necessarily the case. So everything I just talked about the last 5 minutes, ignore. But I do think it's like, okay, so she has good intentions with everything, but girl is a spoiled brat. Like Chitose, like she's very self-centered. Like she's not even asking like, how is your day, Chihaya? Like what? I feel bad for Chihaya because they all seem kind of like so revolving around Chitose that they forget, hey, you have another daughter. And she's like, I'm already on the 7th volume for Chitose. And at the time, there's nothing for Chihaya. So it feels very sad. And the thing that makes it worse is that Chihaya doesn't get mad, right? Now, Arata has not texted her back, which, based on the spoiler from the comments, he probably thinks that she's dating Taichi and he doesn't want to do that. But I'm like, that's stupid. He should still text her back because how do you know for sure unless Taichi's told you that? But we'll find out as it goes. Also, Arata does not seem like the type of person that wants to meddle in things, but I'm like, you should probably meddle because she's probably wanting you to meddle. But anyway, so the Empress at first doesn't want to take them to the national tournament because she does not seem to find, she doesn't think that they're, working as hard as her tennis team to go towards nationals, and she doesn't see the value in their Karuta team and the activities they're doing until the very end when she sees that, yes, they are actually working really hard to get to nationals. But I'm glad that her tennis nationals does not coincide at the same time as the Karuta one. Glad there's some difference there. This one guy, I don't know what this one teacher teaches. I don't know what his thing is. His coach doesn't seem like it's done very well, or his team hasn't done very well, but he wants to go because of some bird rally that's on TV. She's like, it's probably at a festival. And he's like, oh no. He's like, the Lake Biwa Birdman rally is on the same day. And he wants to go watch it. So he's not even serious about Karuta either. He's just going to take him there and then ditch him, which I felt like when he said that, she was kind of like, oh, that's not very responsible. And then she starts to kind of think about it a little bit more and more. I would have been like the same way as Chihaya. I'm the same way as Chihaya. Sometimes and the mods can attest to this, sometimes I get really nervous that things are Chihaya worrying that all of the Karuta practice is making it to where they're slipping in other areas and being worried about being a burden. I can so relate to that with Chihaya. I can. And I'm glad that Tsutomu eases her worries by being like, no, it's fine. I'm still 5th in the class. It's okay. Which honestly, I know that I feel this way because I was striving in high school to be top in my class because I thought that was really, really important. I ended up being 3rd. So I was 3rd in my class. I didn't take an extra math class to be first or second because I'm not good at math and I didn't want to tank my GPA. But I did at the time in high school. I was so angry that I wasn't going to be in the top 2. And now looking back, I'm like, really didn't matter. And I hate to like downplay anybody that gets valedictorian or salutatorian because that can lead you to get some amazing scholarships to schools. So I'm not going to diss that at all. But in the long grand scheme of things, you can still be a successful person and get a really good job, even if you're not the top 2. So I feel like for Tsutomu, he has the healthy mindset of being like, I'm more concerned about Karuta because this gives me community and joy and happiness than being in the top of my class when I was by myself and only worrying about studying and not feeling the fulfillment that Karuta gives me. Like, I'm glad that he says that without saying it in too many words, right? So yeah, and there's the picture of all of them that was cut out of the paper. I'm glad her parents cut that out of the paper. They needed to. So yeah, so she sees on the side champion Mizusawa, champion Hokyo, champion Hokyo, champion Hokyo, champion Hokyo. Like the last 4 years, Hokyo's won, and this is the year that they beat them. So that starts to get her, Chihaya, feeling the pressure that she needs to practice more before nationals, which whenever Chihaya feels the need and the pressure, girl goes full on, which I don't blame her. I'm the same way, so I get that. But Nishida, meanwhile, is like, I'm going to take Tsutomu and I'm going to take Kana and we're going to go over to Suihoku where he was trained. He's like, I've got a coach. He taught me everything. I'm glad he's going to get to see him again. That's exciting for Nishida. He's like, I'm going to take him over there, train with them, show him what I know, which is good. Which somebody in the comments, I said in the reaction, had noted Nishida had the most practice out of all of them. So I think that that's good that he's the more experienced competitor to teach Kana and Tsutomu, which gives Taichi and Chihaya not only time to bond, although it was just this episode, but time to go practice where they're more comfortable at, right? Which is back at the Katamachi Cultural Center, you know. So Harada sees him. He's like, I like Harada as an instructor where he gets onto both of them. Taichi's face as he's getting like scolded is hilarious. I laughed so hard. That was so good. But yeah, he basically is like, you guys have lots of things you can improve on, which is what they need to hear. They need to know that they don't need to be coddled. They need to know what they need to do. And Chihaya's problem is she can't become unstable because of her emotions. Girl can relate. And he tells her what she needs to work on. I like also as he's telling them, you can kind of see the one college guy in the background moving around to the other people and talking to them. That's a nice little detail that they added. He's like, you know, here's all the things we can improve upon. So Hiroshi-kun. Hiroshi-kun is, he's hot. Love him. He's great. Also, don't think I didn't miss Taichi's little, hey, with his little blush. Don't think I didn't miss that. Taichi, our bisexual king. I don't blame you. If you want to ship him with Arata or Chihaya or Hiroshi, go for it. Hiroshi's great. Love it. He's like, Chihaya, you're going to be playing me. Which I think is great. I think Chihaya, the day is going to come when Chihaya beats Harada Sensei in a competition. And that's going to be like the ultimate sign of her growth when she beats Harada Sensei. That's going to be the sign that she's ready to go, right? Because she's like, I've never beaten him before. And she loses by 15 cards, which I'm honestly glad she lost because I feel like also her hairstyle is adorable in this scene. I feel like it's important she gets a little dose, not of humble pie, because Chihaya is very humble to begin with, but a dose of, hey, you're not ready. You still have a long ways to go, and that's okay. You're going to nationals. It's going to be all right, but don't go in thinking that you're going to stomp the competition. You need to go in being realistic. And so I'm assuming Taichi lost to Hiroshi as well. He's going to be playing the Master Tournament this year. I think it's going to play against people like that. Also, this is a lot of growth for our man Taichi, because Chihaya, when they come out of the center, she's feeling really disheveled. She's feeling stressed. She's like, all of this pressure was put on me as someone playing Karuta, and she's like, I don't want to let people down. I don't want to let down the teams that we beat. I have all this stress. And Taichi, I love that he just like Maka chops basically her on the head and is like, hey, get your head out of your ass. You're here for a reason. We're going to take those teams with us when we go to nationals. Their spirit is watching over us. He's like, there's a reason that we won. Quit doubting yourself. It's going to be fine. Don't say nothing's wrong. I love he's like, don't think you're going to hide your feelings. And when I love he stretches her face out because that's, Taichi's gone from being kind of timid and scared of interacting with her because, when you have a crush on somebody, you don't want to do that, to being more open to be like, hey, get it up. You're going to be fine. To like, telling her like it is. And then of course, every anime has to have like a traffic light problem, Every anime has to have that traffic light come down to show the symbolism of the guarded heart. But yeah, I love that she's honest with him and she's like, what if we lose? I'm scared about nationals. What if, people say that we didn't deserve to go? Like, I'm glad she communicates all this to Taichi because it's very important that she does that because, these are all, it's good that she shows her concerns to him. And that way that lets him know, he's like, you're not the only one who's nervous, Chihaya, and it's healthy for you to say that. And I like that he's just there as her support, being like, look, I got this strategy guide. It's got all the stats. I love that as Retro-kun drawn in the corner. That's so cute. It's a guide for the building. It shows where to stay at. He's like, don't let a team that beat us get you down. There's no reason to feel ashamed. Girl, me and Chihaya, we both see eye to eye in this. And it's good that people give us the same advice because her and I feel are kindred spirits. He's like, we're going to go to nationals. We're taking those other teams with us. It's going to be fine. But yeah, I like that she kind of keeps giving herself when she gets home the mantra of I qualified for nationals. I deserve to be going. I feel sad that she has to give herself those mantras because it seems like she doesn't have the support at home that she would need to not have to do that. But then that's when she sees a newspaper clipping cut out. And that's when she sees that her parents do care about her. They are supportive of her. And they've given her her own little book. Yep. And that shows they're being like, she's great. I love that. And of course I would be crying too. So then we have all these little like wishes. So Kana says Hakama domination. Of course she's worried about the fashion. Taichi says total victory. Nishida says victory and Omi beef. I'm like, my dude, you got the right priorities. I don't think, is Tsutomu's on there? Tsutomu says my first win. I want that for Tsutomu so badly. I want that for him so badly. And then Chihaya says champion. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I like when the Empress when the Empress like walks out at first, she thinks that they're just goofing around and she's like, oh, these kids, they are not taking this seriously. They're representing Tokyo, blah, blah, blah. But then when she comes back, she sees that no, they're actually pretty serious. So Nishida they talk about him practicing his local Karuta society every weekend. He's the only one who has experience at Omi Jingu, so he's actually been to nationals before. The one thing was, I liked how Kana was doing it. I feel like Kana, and I'm glad that Taichi got on to Nishida a little bit. Nishida can be a little insensitive, and I like Nishida's character a lot. Don't get me wrong. I like Nishida's character quite a bit, but he is a little bit insensitive sometimes, and he doesn't seem to care that he's insensitive, which the team just kind of rolls with it. If I was his coach, I'd be like, hey, need to think about what we say before we say it. But he does not seem the need to. And I get his point of wanting Kana to know the basics, of being able to learn the basics, master the basics, because that's important, right? But I want her to eventually be able to do the seasonal thing because I think that's kind of cool. And I think that's her own jam. And I kind of wanted her to stand up for herself and be like, this is going to be the way that I do it and the way I learn. So have faith in me. But I also feel like this show is setting that up for that conversation to happen later on. So who knows? Who knows what we'll get with that? Maybe later. But yeah, so I liked her seasonal setup. I thought it was cool. And obviously when Nishida's like, nationals can be overwhelming and this is going to be hard. Like, I get what Nishida is telling her and what he's trying to say. He just sometimes can come across a little bit insensitive, not condescending or anything, but a little insensitive. And it's like, he's like, we need to start with the basics. Like, he explains himself. I just felt like it put Kana down a little bit. And she's like, look, you don't even know the entire poems. You don't even know what they mean. So should you be berating me as much as you are? She's like, we each get different things out of what we're doing with the cards. And I like that Chihaya slowly like brings her back. It's like that meme of the guy like wrapping his arms around whatever to bring them back to reality. But she's like, look, we have to become stronger so we can represent Tokyo properly. And so then I like the explanation of as the tennis coach comes back, seeing them play. I love Kana's explanation of the sunset poem, set these forbidden fields aglow. I mean, it's about errata. It's about Chihaya and errata. That we've had one with Taichi, and now this one kind of is errata in some ways. It was written by Emperor Tenji's wife, Princess Nukata, and it tells the story of when her former husband what does it say? It tells the story of when her former husband, Prince Alma, snuck into her husband's lands and waved to her. Yeah. Which is interesting because it says her former husband, which to me kind of is errata, because right now Chihaya is more around Taichi. Errata is, I don't want to say former husband because there's still possibly a future with them. We don't know. Don't spoil. But I feel like it is, errata constantly coming back and being a presence in her life and being something that she admires and being happy to see him. She worried someone might see them together. And the human heart never changes. I love it. I love it that because with Chihaya, afraid that people might see them together, I don't think Chihaya is worried about that, but I feel like Chihaya wants to be at her best, to feel like she wants to prove. I don't think that she wants to stand on Arata's level or that there's a fear of him thinking less of her, but I think she wants him to be the most proud of her as possible. So she's like, I want to stand at the top of the ladder to show you how much you've impacted me and how much you've influenced me and how special that is. Or that's my view of it anyway. But I love that she thinks of the Chihaya card as being red, being the color red. And her saying that when she goes to the national tournament, she thinks of what Arata told her, that it just reminds her of the color red. Like, it's so romantic. It's beautiful, right? So the Empress takes the World of 100 Poets so she can educate herself, as one does. They put the trophy on display. She tells Birdman he's not going to get to go to the convention because otherwise he was just going to goof off. Also, she looks so fly as hell. The Empress showing up looking like damn, from Devil Wears Prada, Miranda. She looks like Miranda from Devil Wears Prada with her hat and her fly glasses, looking such a boss, right? Miranda Priestley. She was given such realness, such executive realness. And then they're on the train going and seeing Mount Fuji, and she's like, it looks the same as it does in the pictures. And they're like, oh my God. I love this train sequence because as a coach, when you're the adult traveling with a bunch of younger, I hate to say kids because it makes me seem ancient, but they're like 18 to 20. But when you see a bunch of like younger students traveling with you and you think back to when you were like that, and you're like, oh yeah, I had the same sense of like newness when you traveled somewhere. It's a lot fun being on the other side and seeing it. So that was really enjoyable. But then she looks out and says, sets these forbidden fields aglow. Wave not, for the guards may find us. And she's like, ever since you taught me the meaning, the impassionate gods card has been red for me. Yeah, which is funny because I think of Arata as like the moon and like a cool blue color. And I think of Taichi as red. So that's really interesting that color is that card in a field of cards. And then she's like, Arata, what's Omi Jingu like? And he says, what is it like? And then she gets to the bottom of the stairs and looks up. And we see his eyes from the OP as he tells her it's all red. And it just looks so impressive. Oh, I love it. I love it so much. Ah! So good. So good, y'all. So good. But yeah, this episode was fantastic. I'm so glad that we are gearing up for the tournament, for nationals to start. I think it's going to be a fun time. Do I think Arata's going to show up? I don't know. If they get to the final round, maybe. Or maybe right before the final round. I don't have a clue, and I want to be surprised. So we'll just see what we get. But I think it's going to be a fun time. So I'm excited to hear y'all's thoughts down below. Please no spoilers. Hints or clues. But anyway, I'll be back very soon to check out episode 13 of Chihayafuru. Bye!